This page is the front cover of Dreamcast Monthly, issue 2 from October 1999. It's shouting about being 100% unofficial and unbiased, and highlights the Dreamcast launch date being inside. The main game on the cover is Wafer Striker, billing it as football's finest hour. There's also a preview for Ready to Rumble Boxing, with the tagline, "Floats like a butterfly, stings like a bee." Speed Demons from Ubisoft is teased as well, promising 3 of the fastest games on Earth, and you could win one of 5 Millennium Soldier Dreamcasts, which sounds like a special edition console giveaway. Classic cover. Really sets the scene for the early days of the Dreamcast. This issue previews several Dreamcast games. Toy Commander offers vehicular combat with toy cars, while Trickstyle is a futuristic racing game. Worms Armageddon and South Park Rally are also featured. A full review of Cool Borders Burn promises a snow surfing experience. The magazine also highlights contests, including a day at the Nigel Mansell Racing School, a Dreamcast giveaway, sponsored by Expendable, and a chance to win Sega Park credits. Finally, an advertisement promotes Millennium Soldier, Expendable, described as an explosive arcade shoot-'em-up. The next page looks like the contents for issue 2, October 1999. It kicks off with Midway's Midas Touch, which sounds like a feature about Midway bringing their arcade hits to the Dreamcast, mentioning Ready to Rumble and Hydro Thunder, good arcade conversions those should be. Next up is Deep Fighter from Criterion Studios, sounds like some original Dreamcast software. Then there's Speed Demons, clearly about racing games. Looking down at the contents list, under previews we've got Deep Fighter, Dragon's Blood, F1 World Championship, Furballs, Hydro Thunder, Jump Runner, Mortal Kombat Gold, NBA Showtime, NFL Blitz 2000, Pen Tricelon, Ready to Rumble, South Park Rally, Stunt GP, Suzuki All-Star Racing, Worms Armageddon and WWF Attitude. Quite a list. Some of those we've already heard about, like South Park Rally and Worms Armageddon from the previous page, and Trickstyle and Toy Commander too actually. They must be somewhere in this issue as well. Under reviews we've got Blue Stinger, Cool Borders Burn, which they're doing a full review of Monaco GP, Speed Devils, Super Speed Racing, Toy Commander, Trickstyle and UEFA Striker. Seems like a packed issue with plenty of game coverage. Over on the left page, they're highlighting the European Computer Trade Show, ECTS99, reckon Sega stole the show even though they didn't exhibit. Typical magazine hyperbole, and there's something about UEFA Striker Showcase, so they're clearly giving that football game some focus too. The Dreamcast Monthly Forum section features reader feedback. Richard Corrigan asks if the Dreamcast lives up to the hype, which DCM confirms. Steve Howard, torn between the Dreamcast and PS2, appreciates the Dreamcast's price and online capabilities, but fears a repeat of the Saturn. DCM counters that the Dreamcast is available now, and potentially cheaper, with Sega Japan holding an advantage. David Morse seeks Christmas game recommendations, and if FIFA is available. DCM suggests consulting reviews and highlighting game variety. Finally, Picture Perfect praises the magazine, particularly the Sonic Adventure and SoulCalibur reviews, and requests demo discs and more detailed game rankings, questioning the score for House of the Dead 2. This page of Dreamcast Monthly dives straight into the news, kicking off with the big question on everyone's minds: why are we waiting? It's all about the Dreamcast's 3-week delay in Europe. Sega's blaming production issues, but the magazine points out the poor communication with us gamers and the frustration it's causing. There's a nice action shot of Xianghua from SoulCalibur to break up the text. Drawn. Moving on, there's good news in the Good for the Soul section, reporting on how SoulCalibur is smashing sales records and boosting the Dreamcast. They mention the Famitsu score and its chart-topping performance in Japan and across formats. Looks like it was a Christmas hit too. Then we have Mad on P, announcing that Mad Catz are bringing out a whole new line of Dreamcast peripherals. We're talking racing wheels, joypads and even a blaster light gun, which is welcome news for accessory fans. Nog. There's also a FAQ section, addressing common questions from readers, stuff about the delay, release dates, demo discs, and those ever-mysterious Dreamcast secrets. It mentions Issue 1 and an October 14th date, plus something called the Wrong Play logo. Finally, there's the forum section reminding readers to keep sending in their letters, as they can't make the magazine without our input. Ubisoft is developing Evolution, the World of Sacred Device, a Dreamcast RPG with 3D graphics and a player-driven storyline, targeting a February release. Steven Spielberg is advising Sega on the Lost World Dreamcast game, based on Jurassic Park. Mad Catz is launching a range of Dreamcast peripherals, including controllers, steering wheels, and light guns. Accessory prices are listed. Sega is planning an Olympics-themed game collection and considering Dreamcast clothing. IDE is discussing bringing Quake Arena to the Dreamcast, while Fox Interactive has cancelled Planet of the Apes. The Dreamcast launch party in London was a success. Upcoming games include Choo Choo Rocket, Grandia 2, Maken X, and San Francisco Rush 2049. Japanese gamers are using Dreamcast for photo editing, and schools are integrating the console into classrooms. The Dreamcast is also proving successful in arcades, with titles like Shenmue and SoulCalibur. Slave Zero's release is delayed, but the epic mech action game continues development. Dreamcast pre-orders in the US are breaking records, fueling high retail expectations. In Japan, the Dreamcast is competing well with the PlayStation, particularly in RPG sales. Sega is promoting the console with the Dreamcast Challenge Fair 99. Interact is releasing a range of Dreamcast peripherals, including the Alloy Arcade Stick, Radius Racing Controller, Fishing Controller, and Astropad, catering to various gaming preferences. This page showcases some new bits and bobs for the Dreamcast, and a glimpse at a football game. On the left, Interact are pushing their peripherals. We've got the Starfire Light Blaster, a two-handed light gun. Looks decent for blasting away in games like House of the Dead 2. Beneath that is the Quantum Fighter Pad, a 6-button arcade-style pad, aimed at fight fans who want that proper arcade feel. They are also launching a range of cables and extension leads for the Dreamcast, which is handy. In the middle, there's an ad for a Dreamcast cheat hotline, Dreamcast cheats and tips, promising cheats for virtually every game. Simple enough. Give them a call and get your cheat codes. On the right, it's an advertorial for UEFA Striker from Infogrames. Get your boots on, it says. Looks like they're really pushing the all-action footy aspect. They mention looking at the history of the game and the team behind it. They even got Dwight York involved to give it a look. Seems like they're trying to make a big splash with this one. UEFA Striker, a football game initially conceived in 1998, is coming to the Dreamcast after PC and PlayStation releases. Developed from scratch for the Dreamcast, it's considered the ultimate evolution of the Striker series, dating back to 1993 on the Amiga. Infogrames is promoting it as a successor to the originals, developed by Birmingham-based Rage Software, who have a history on various platforms since 1992. The Dreamcast version has been in development for 2.5 years. They've focused on enhanced player movement, physics, ball control, and varied gameplay, promising a realistic football experience. The game is a Dreamcast exclusive, pushing the console's graphical capabilities with detailed visuals and smooth frame rates. Intelligent player AI has also been implemented. UEFA Striker is being heavily promoted as a key football title, promising a strong impact. This Dreamcast page previews UEFA Striker, heralding it as a top-tier football game, possibly the best on the system. The preview praises its smooth gameplay and impressive graphics, comparing it favorably to ISS Pro. Screenshots highlight the game's visual appeal, showcasing pitch views and player movements. The ease of set-piece control with the analog stick is also emphasized. A unique section features an interview with Manchester United forward Dwight York. He raves about the game's realism, fluidity, and intelligent player movement, comparing it to real-life football. York is impressed with the graphics and finds the game challenging, especially facing teammates like David May and Jape Stam. He expresses his enjoyment and excitement, essentially providing a glowing endorsement of UEFA Striker. This page is a showcase for UEFA Striker, expanding on the previous page's preview. It delves deeper into various aspects of the game. There's a section on commentary duty, mentioning that, unlike some other footy games, UEFA Striker has no commentary team behind it. It name-drops Barry Davies, John Motson, and Jonathan Pierce, noting these were considered, but ultimately the game opted for in-game voice samples. The text mentions, the commentary aims for realism, and mentions Sensible World of Soccer as a title with great voice samples. Moving on to the screenshots, they show various in-game perspectives, from different camera angles during matches, including close-ups of players and wider pitch views, highlighting the graphical detail for the time. It mentions being able to customize team strips and player numbers. The section titled Game On talks about the gameplay itself, emphasizing that the game is still enjoyable regardless of match length or scoreline. It describes getting a free kick and kicking the ball back into play, suggesting a focus on action and flow. It notes the camera angles are good for replay sequences. Udor. Finally, there's a piece asking, can I have a new controller? Discussing the Dreamcast controller and its suitability for UEFA Striker. It mentions that whilst the standard controller is usable, an analog stick controller, pictured here, would be more suitable for precise play and quick reactions. It suggests that innovative peripherals might be designed in the future for even better control. This feature reviews UEFA Striker for the Dreamcast, detailing team customization options allowing for humorous team aesthetics. The game offers various match types, settings, and the ability to save configurations to the VMU. The review admits initial skepticism, but concludes UEFA Striker is a decent and enjoyable experience, despite graphical limitations. It compares the game to PlayStation and PC football games like ISS Pro and FIFA, suggesting it focuses on gameplay rather than graphics. The reviewer recommends it to those who enjoy games like Michael Owen's FIFA Soccer 99. Alongside the review, there's a competition to win Dreamcast consoles, branded for the game Expendable, showcasing futuristic soldiers and robots in its promotional image. This page features a competition to win one of 5 limited edition expendable Dreamcast consoles. You just have to answer a simple question about what is expendable in Millennium Soldier, which they hint is in the review in the last issue. The page also mentions thousands of entries for the last Dreamcast giveaway, implying this one will be even bigger. Over on the right, we're at ECTS 99, and even without Sega officially being there, the Dreamcast still made a big impression, being a top turnout for publishers showing off their wares. This section highlights Deep Fighter as one of the best upcoming Dreamcast titles. It's being published by Ubisoft, developed by Criterion Software, and is set for release in Q1 2000, falling into the action-adventure genre. Deep Fighter is described as putting you in a state-of-heart submarine, fighting deadly missions in underwater environments against hostile aliens in a giant mothership called Leviathan. The gameplay focuses on diverse mission types, strategy, resource management, and adapting to the environment. Technically, it's highlighted for its physically modeled environment and realistic collisions. Apparently, the story progresses non-linearly, letting you take multiple routes and offering replayability. They also mention the developers Criterion Studios and their producer Griffield Jenkins. The next page continues at ECTS 99, still buzzing about Dreamcast even without Sega officially there. We get another look at Deep Fighter, that submarine action-adventure from Ubisoft and Criterion. They're showing off more screenshots and highlighting the game's non-linear story and diverse missions, all about fighting aliens in a mothership called Leviathan. But the main event here is Worms Armageddon. Team 17 are bringing the ultimate Wormage to the Dreamcast. This preview is full of praise, calling it the ultimate version and saying yes sir to its greatness. It mentions the original Worms success on PC and PlayStation, highlighting the cartoon style and improved graphics of this new version. They reckon it's got all the original elements, plus extra bits and better graphics. Gameplay-wise, it's classic Worms, strategic turn-based action, battling with predetermined or edited teams. Each worm has their own name and you've got to wipe out the other team, making use of all sorts of weapons. They list some of the weapons like sheep, Ming vases, petrol bombs, and even nuclear tests. Apparently, the terrain can be warped by explosions, adding to the chaos. It's all looking very promising for Worms fans on the Dreamcast. This page at ECTS 99 carries on with more Dreamcast goodness, and we're kicking off with Worms Armageddon, or Geddon as they've styled it here, highlighting the comical weapons. They are really pushing the humor aspect, pointing out the sound effects are lifted from teleshows like South Park and Red Dwarf, which is a bit of fun. It sounds like they've gone all out with new stuff, loads of new landscapes, stages and game modes to get your teeth into. It's all about that simple but brilliant Worms formula that we know and love. Flipping over to the other side of the page, it's all about South Park Rally. Acclaim are bringing this one to Dreamcast, and it's looking like a laugh. They're boasting dozens of characters, even Starvin' Marvin is in there. It's a racing game, naturally, and they reckon it's out early next year. The preview text is all about the humor and the South Park feel. Even if the graphics are a bit basic, but it's South Park, isn't it? That's part of the charm. They mention loads of tracks, characters, and modes, and it's definitely aiming for that mature audience with the language. Seems like a bit of daft fun if you're a South Park fan. This page at ECTS 99 gives us a look at 2 more promising titles. First up, we've got Dragon's Blood. Looks like a fantasy action RPG. They're talking about playing as a novice swordsman who can transform into a superhero-type character, which sounds intriguing. The screenshots show a chap battling monsters in some 3D environments, classic sword and sorcery stuff. Apparently, there are 17 enemies to tackle, ranging from queens to dragon knights, and you'll need to get tactical to defeat them all. They're saying it's got a preview build at ECTS and they're working on improving the graphics. Doctrine flipping over, we have Stunt GP. Now this looks a bit different, a racing game, but with stunts thrown in. They're calling it an unusual mix of racing and hair-raising stunts. It seems you can build and upgrade your cars, and they boast about 1 million different car setups, which is quite something. There are 24 tracks, split into various themes, jumps and corkscrews, all the usual stunt fare. They're pushing the multiplayer aspect too, split screen up to 4 players, and even online play via the Dreamcast modem. From the sounds of it, it's all about mastering stunts to earn rewards and upgrade your vehicles. A bit of a different take on racing. 2 upcoming Dreamcast games are previewed. Furballs by Bizarre Creations blends a cartoon style with Tomb Raider-like action-adventure gameplay, releasing Q1 2000. Featuring 6 playable characters with unique abilities for puzzle solving and combat, it promises mature gameplay and aims to showcase the Dreamcast's capabilities. Jump Runner, developed by Simi's Glass Ghost label, is a space combat game due Q2 2000. Described as arcade-style combat, it combines elements of Elite, Quake 2, and Wolfenstein, with a strategic depth compared to Dungeon Keeper. Built on their Daedalus engine, Jump Runner aims for dynamic environments and advanced object systems, showcasing next-gen technology. The next page continues the preview of Jump Runner, that space combat title from Simi's and their Glass Ghost label. It highlights the unsavory aspect of the gameplay, mentioning missions involving smuggling and assassination. Fitting with the space opera vibe, the game world sounds pretty dynamic, with events triggering based on player competence and location. We get a look at some screenshots, showing off the ship designs and environments, looking quite moody and atmospheric. The text emphasizes the variety of mission types, beyond just combat, which is a nice touch. There's talk about a cargo system which sounds intriguing. You can stash stuff underneath your craft, and there's even scanning involved, which adds a bit of depth. The preview also makes a point about the game being accessible to both newcomers to space games and seasoned vets, which is always a smart move. It sounds like they're trying to balance depth with approachability, aiming for a good overall experience. The next page is a preview for Pen Pen Trilsalon, a rather quirky racing game from General Entertainment and published by Infogrames, slated for release in October 1999. It's certainly one of those games that stands out, with its madcap characters and colourful cartoonish look. Definitely not one to be played by the sane, as the tagline suggests. We get a glimpse of the gameplay through some screenshots. Looks like you're racing around tracks with these oddball penguin-like creatures. They're called pen-pens apparently, and there's a whole cast of them, 8 in total, each with their own personality. They aren't your typical racers, that's for sure, described as being outright balmy and barely resembling any kind of sensible penguin or lifeform. The article mentions you can pick your runner and race, but there's also swimming and gliding involved, navigating tracks littered with obstacles. The visuals are certainly bright and cheerful, a bit different from the gritty space stuff we were just looking at with Jump Runner, that's for sure. There were even additional characters mentioned like Max Power and the mayoress of Sweet Town, and even a jungle leader called Unga Puga. It sounds like a right old mix. They are all made of sweets and treats, apparently, candy and chocolate, and other sugary goodness. It's certainly aiming for a light-hearted and silly experience, not your serious racing simulator by any stretch of the imagination. This page previews 2 racing games. Pen Pen Trilsalon features quirky penguin racers, with 7 initial characters and unlockables, each with unique personalities and cartoonish visuals. The game offers a split-screen mode and time trials, emphasizing its bizarre nature. On the other side, F1 World Championship, a Formula 1 racing simulation by Video Systems, is showcased. Releasing on November 5th, the game promises a traditional F1 experience. The preview highlights Video Systems' history in F1 games, spanning various platforms. An interview with Alistair McNally of Video Systems reveals aims to balance simulation and arcade elements, promising engaging racing action for Dreamcast. This page showcases a couple of titles in development and preview form. On the left, we've got a look at F1 World Championship from Video Systems. They're banging on about getting that sweet 60 frames per second, and trying to nail the balance between a realistic simulation and something you can just pick up and play. They're showing some in-game shots and screens, looks like proper fun stuff, circuits and cars and whatnot. There's a little box suggesting you should have a crack at Monaco in the game. Doolefrisfley, flipping over to the right, it's all about WWF attitude from Acclaim. They're calling the sound painful, which is a bit harsh, but they admit it went down well on the PlayStation. They're wondering how it will fare on the Dreamcast. Acclaim is obviously known for their wrestling games, and they're keen to stress this one is well orchestrated for single-player and multiplayer scraps. They're showing off some of the wrestlers in action, and a menu screen for creating your own wrestler, which they're calling Make Your Own. Sounds like you can really customize your grappler. This page carries on from the WWF Attitude preview we were just looking at. They're digging deeper into the game's mechanics, talking about how they've grouped special moves into categories like aerial attacks, ground attacks, grapples, and weapon grapples. Apparently there are over 400 moves in total, with unique ones for each of the 40 wrestlers on the roster. They're banging on about the sound again, quoting, "The last thing you can expect is silence, with every thud and grunt bursting out of your speakers." Seems like they're really trying to get across the impact of the wrestling action. Game modes get a mention too. Exhibition, Career Mode, and King of the Ring are all in there, plus a fair few more, apparently 20 in total, including lumberjack matches. They even mention you can use weapons and spill a bit of claret so it's not holding back on the rough stuff. Lumberjack. Then, flipping over to the right-hand side, it's a feature piece called Midway's Midas Touch. It's all about Midway, and their move to the Dreamcast. They're saying Midway, known for arcade hits, are aiming to bring that high quality to the Dreamcast, with a bunch of top-notch titles. They're promising insider information, so we'll have to see what that is in the rest of the article. It's written by Derek De La Fuente if you're interested in who's penning this piece. This page continues the Midway's Midas Touch feature, still going on about Midway's commitment to the Dreamcast, mentioning their history with arcade hits, and their intention to bring that quality over to the console. They're talking about their internal R&D and external development partnerships, and how they're scaling up their operations in Europe. They reckon Midway's titles will be important for the Dreamcast's success. Right next to that article, we've got a Ready to Rumble preview. This is the boxing game that's got everyone talking, and rightly so. It's shaping up nicely. They're highlighting the feel of the game, saying if you just mash buttons you'll get somewhere, but to really master it you need to learn the combo moves duck, dive, bob and weave, all that good stuff, to feel like a proper boxer. They reckon it's easy to pick up but with real depth. There's a section called Boxing Clever, showcasing some of the characters. We've got Selene Strike, described as a Brazilian female boxer, Boris the Bear Nokimov, a Russian fella who's a bit of a brute, Nat Daddy, an American with a strong presence, and Salua, a former sumo wrestler. Then there's Tank Thrasher, Chemo Claw, and Big Willie Johnson, and Butcher Brown, a colourful bunch to say the least. Each boxer has got their own style and backstory, adding to the fun of it all. This preview highlights two games, Ready to Rumble and Mortal Kombat Gold. Ready to Rumble showcases character profiles, emphasizing personality over mere stats. Featured boxers include Bruce Blade, Angel Rivera, Furious Phasmotar, Lulu Valentine, Jimmy Blood, and Afro Thunder. Mortal Kombat Gold, the Dreamcast version, is presented as the definitive MK experience. It boasts over 20 fighters from across the series, incorporating content from the original Mortal Kombat to MK4. New 3D stages and improved graphics running at 60 FPS are key features. The game leverages the Dreamcast's power for enhanced visuals and arcade-quality presentation. John Tobias, of Midway, is quoted, highlighting their commitment to the Dreamcast and an extensive planned MK game lineup for the system. John. This preview highlights two upcoming Dreamcast games. Hydro Thunder, a boat racing game, promises arcade-style fun with realistic physics and detailed tracks. The Dreamcast version will be arcade-perfect, with enhanced graphics and bonus content, aiming to be the benchmark for boat racing games. NBA Showtime, NBA on NBC, is a four-player arcade basketball game emphasizing fast-paced, over-the-top action, and fun gameplay over realism. It includes features like a creator-player option, dynamic cameras, and commentary, making it ideal for casual play and group entertainment. This Dreamcast game review roundup starts with NFL Blitz 2000, promising arcade-style fun. Quick reviews follow. Blue Stinger, 56, is an action-adventure with horror elements. Cool Borders Burn, 72, is deemed the best Dreamcast snowboarding game. Racing Simulation, Monaco GP 66, offers a fresh F1 experience. Speed Devils, 62, focuses on fast cars and big tracks. Super Speed Racing, 70, a Sega IndyCar sim, questions its appeal outside the US. Toy Commander, 76, features toy car action. Trick Style, 52, attempts a futuristic racing revival. The review concludes with a rating system, 0 to 10, explaining how games are scored based on quality and enjoyment. This page continues the Dreamcast game reviews. We have a look at Super Speed Racing, which they call a Sega IndyCar sim, giving it a solid 7 out of 10. They ponder if it's got appeal outside of the US market, being IndyCar focused. Then there's Trick Style, with a large, rather striking character image, and that scores a modest 5 out of 10. It seems they were hoping for a futuristic racing revival, but it didn't quite hit the mark. There are also sections explaining the review layout. Peripherals touches on the extras you could get for the Dreamcast. Initially, is about the first impressions part of the review. Information tells you about background details like publisher and price. VMU explains why the visual memory unit is important for Dreamcast games. Coming soon is a peek at what games are up next for review, and Scorebox is where they explain their scoring system out of 10. All fairly standard stuff in a games mag of the time. This page carries on with the Trick Style review, which they didn't seem too impressed with on the last page, giving it a middling 5 out of 10. They start by saying, Trick Style encompasses all that we love in our snowboarding titles, but adds an extra hint of spice, which sounds promising initially, though the score suggests otherwise. The review delves into the game's training sessions, explaining the basics like jump training, double jump training, luge training, and stunt switch training. It sounds like the game tries to teach you the ropes with these, and they mention the importance of precise timing and using button combinations. They've got a section called Boarding Jitters, where they talk about their initial impressions, saying it took a little while to get to grips with the controls, particularly for jumps and 360-degree turns. They describe racing around futuristic London, mentioning Big Ben and some fancy-looking architecture, which does sound quite cool. Finally, there's a section on Trick Stylers, showing off some of the characters you can play as. Angel, Brad, King and Max are pictured, with a short blurb about each one having their own strengths and weaknesses, impacting speed and trickability. Overall, it seems like Trick Style tried to be a futuristic take on snowboarding, but perhaps didn't quite live up to expectations, despite some interesting ideas. This page reviews 2 games. Trick Style gets a brief wrap-up, highlighting its 2-player modes like Criterion and Globe Switch, and suggesting single-player practice for Hoop Race. Customizing border colors is a positive, although the inability to race single-player courses in multiplayer is a downside. Despite the 5/10 score from the previous page, the review recommends reserving a copy, though a 9/10 score seems misplaced. Blue Stinger is the main focus, lauded for its extensive gameplay and impressive graphics, compared favorably to Sonic Adventure. The review emphasizes its quality, awarding it a 9/10. While lacking 4-player, it offers a way to entertain 2 players. The game features characters like Zack, MIA, Rose, Shin, and Yuri, and has a horror action vibe, potentially similar to Resident Evil. Blue Stinger's review praises its action-packed intro, immediately thrusting players into a world of mutated creatures on Dinosaur Island. It highlights the distinct playstyles of Elliot, the agile hand-to-hand combat expert, and Dogs, the slower but resilient firearm specialist. The game offers extensive exploration with 230 locations and diverse weaponry, including machine guns and plasma weapons, and allows for environmental damage. The review underscores the game's depth and entertainment value, emphasizing its quality compared to other Dreamcast launch titles. It concludes by calling Blue Stinger a must-have for the Dreamcast, solidifying its high score. The next page delves deeper into Blue Stinger, starting with a look at the mystery woman, who we know as Nettie. Apparently she's the one who pulls you out of the fire at the start and keeps in touch, guiding you through the game with cryptic messages in those dimly lit corridors. Then there's a freak show section, detailing some of the beasties you'll be up against. They reckon there are over 51 unique menacing monsters and bosses, each with their own attack styles and fancy AI. They highlight the boss fights as being particularly tough, suggesting you'll need to manage your resources carefully and plan your approach. They've even shown some of the enemy types: bird, dog, bull, dragon, kochi, and jam cozy, all looking suitably menacing. Finally, there's Loose Change, which is all about the game's economy. It seems you get cash by defeating enemies, describing it as a bit of a bloody sponge change affair. This cash is then used at vending machines to buy essentials. They mention food and drink being important for survival, and give examples like sushi, hot dogs and hamburgers. Apparently you need to decide wisely what to buy, balancing cost and benefit. The article also touches on puzzles, needing to find ID cards, timed sequences and even pen Trilon tokens for opening doors, mentioning freezers as being a particularly tricky area. Sounds like there's more to it than just blasting monsters. You'll need to use your brain a bit too. This page features a feature article highlighting Speed Devils from Ubisoft. They're showcasing 3 racing games. First up is Speed Devils itself, which they reckon is so good it makes Sega Rally 2 look a bit dated. Bold claim. It's all about American muscle cars and crazy courses apparently. Then there's Racing Simulation, Monaco Grand Prix, which is said to be improved from the Japanese version for us UK gamers. Lastly, there's Suzuki All-Star Racing, billed as Ubisoft's attempt to create the fastest racing game on any format with Suzuki bikes, and it sounds like they think they've nailed it. There's also a tiny peripherals note at the top about steering wheels being useful for racing games, but you can use the analog stick if you haven't got one. This page carries on with the Speed Devils feature, and it's really diving into the meat of the game. They're talking about the championship mode, splitting it into 4 sections. Reckon you'll have plenty to be getting on with there. It mentions car damage being deeply involved and visually represented with 6 damage points dotted over each car, plus some nice graphical touches like buildings that burn and crumble, and even a Trek stomping about in the background. The car showroom section is highlighted, showing off a selection of motors you can choose from. There are 12 available in Speed Devils, all customizable depending on your bank balance. They point out you can buy upgrades like power, acceleration, brakes, armor and tires to improve your chosen ride for the championship. The Play the Game section describes the locations, mentioning 7 in America with 15 tracks total, and the weather system, which sounds pretty advanced for the time, affecting the racing conditions. The graphics are praised for their realism, especially the weather and lighting effects, and they wrap up by saying that for those expecting more from their Dreamcast, this game really delivers. This page is all about Racing Simulation, Monaco Grand Prix for the Dreamcast. Looks like they're finally getting their hands on the UK version and seeing if it lives up to the hype. They're saying it's got all the promised improvements, and they're keen to find out if that's true. They're reminiscing about racing games of the past, saying this one has a touch of that retro style, but obviously with much better graphics than the old days. They reckon the Dreamcast version is a step up from the PlayStation and PC versions in terms of graphics, which you'd expect, and the gameplay. They're highlighting the different game modes on offer, like Arcade, Simulation, Time Attack, and Championship, giving you plenty to get stuck into. There's a bit about camera angles, and how you can choose different views to race from, depending on your preference. It seems they're really trying to cater to the serious F1 fans, making sure all the details are there, like realistic car physics and damage. They touch upon some of the smaller improvements too, like the music and sound effects, and the garage feature, where you can tinker with your car's setup. Sounds like they're impressed overall and are saying it's got everything a serious F1 fan could want in a game. This page showcases a preview for Suzuki All-Star Extreme Racing on the Dreamcast, boasting it's definitely one to get excited about. It seems Ubisoft is publishing it, and Criterion Studios is developing, with an October 1999 release slated. The article highlights the realistic nature of the game, emphasizing licensed real riders and bikes. They mention the controls are designed for fine-tuning and the tire-burning action. The aim of the game is to win the Suzuki All-Star Team Championship, competing against legends like Pirro, Chambon, Chili, and Fujiwara. They're talking about 12 courses in diverse locations, from beaches to snowy mountains. There's mention of 2-player split screen and a single-player main game with championships. The screenshots show in-game action with bikes racing across different environments. On the right side, there's a competition to win a day at the races at Brands Hatch. It's offering a chance to drive Formula Ford racing cars. Looks like they'll provide transport and lessons from instructors at the Nigel Mansell Racing School. To enter, you have to name the driver who crashed and broke a leg at Silverstone earlier that year, write the answer on a postcard, along with your details, and send it to Dreamcast magazine. The closing date is the 22nd of October. They mention Speed Demons competition, Dreamcast Monthly magazine, Quay Magazine Publishing, 22 Strand Street, Poole, Dorset B, H151, SB as the address. Superspeed Racing on the Dreamcast, a kart simulation, captures the feel of American IndyCar racing. The review describes it as arcade-style fun, rather than a hardcore simulation, offering 2 main modes, Arcade and Championship. Featuring 27 drivers and 19 courses, the game is easy to learn, allowing players to quickly master its controls. A key element is the extensive car customization. Players can fine-tune settings like suspension, aerodynamics, and gear ratios, impacting performance. With 5 viewpoints available, the controls are responsive, though handling requires some adjustment. The review praises the engaging gameplay and the classic racing elements. The championship mode allows in-depth tweaking of spark plugs, suspension, aerodynamics, gear ratio, fuel, and tire compound, offering control over grip, durability and overall performance. Developed and published by Sega, it's a racing game with a price of £54.99. This page is a review of Cool Borders Burn for the Dreamcast, and it's asking if UEP systems can keep the spirit of the PlayStation trilogy alive on Sega's machine. It's a snowboarding sports sim, and the review is immediately interested in the gameplay. They delve into the trick system, explaining how the controls work for setting up spins and grabs, which sounds like it might take a bit of getting used to but offers depth. A big positive mentioned is that the course design avoids pop-up and polygonal gaps, so the visuals seem solid in that regard. There's also a section focusing on the halfpipe mode, called Heroes in a Halfpipe, mentioning a good number of courses for that style of riding. It's a pretty positive first look, emphasizing the gameplay mechanics and well-constructed courses. This page continues the review of Cool Borders Burn, and it seems they are getting into the nitty-gritty now. There's a section on multiplayer, labeled Multiplayer Mayhem, highlighting the split-screen two-player mode. Apparently, there are no CPU opponents in multiplayer, which is a bit of a head-scratcher, but they mention the action still being intense when players are trying to out-trick each other and get ahead on the course. Moving on, there's a bold statement: the courses are definitely on a fantasy tip, which suggests the level design is leaning towards the imaginative side, not strictly realistic mountain runs. They touch upon the music, saying it fits well but isn't anything groundbreaking, and the graphics are being compared to the PlayStation version again. It sounds like the Dreamcast is pulling off cleaner visuals, which isn't a surprise really. The review does circle back to the price, reiterating that it might be a bit steep for an import. Ultimately, it reads like a decent enough snowboarding game, but perhaps not quite justifying a premium import price when weighed against other options, especially considering it's being directly compared to its PlayStation predecessors. There are screenshots peppered around showing various in-game moments, characters riding down slopes, and the character select screen, showcasing the roster of borders you can choose from. This page features a full review of Toy Commander, and what a cracking little game this was. The page is dominated by that iconic image of the kid with the pilot goggles. Really sets the scene for the toy soldier premise. They're calling it a hardcore and tooled-up version of an early learning center, which is a clever way of saying it's far more involved than your average kids game. It seems to be a real breath of fresh air, with the review highlighting the ingenious premise and versatile gameplay. They mention you're in control of an army of toy soldiers, led by General Jumbo, battling it out in everyday household environments. The screenshots show exactly that: toy soldiers and vehicles tearing around what looks like a kitchen. The multiplayer section, cheekily titled If the Kids Aren't United, mentions 4-player split-screen action, which was always a winner back then. Game modes like Deathmatch, Capture the Flag, and Cat and Mouse mode are all in there. Sounds like proper laugh-out-loud stuff with mates. Kijite. They also talk about how intuitive it is to pick up and play, even though it's got surprising depth. It was developed by No Cliché and published by Sega, of course. Those were the days. Released in November '99 and priced at £39.99, which was standard for a new Dreamcast title. Definitely a game that offered something a bit different, and judging by this, it was a right bit of fun. Toy Commander offers a diverse and engaging gameplay experience across numerous imaginative levels. The game features a wide array of environments, from the kitchen level to the playroom with a view, with objectives ranging from protecting chicken embryos, dish of the day, to battling a clockwork rabbit boss, Chuck. Levels are designed to be varied, utilizing the unique physics engine to incorporate everyday objects like ramps. The game's physics allow for interactive destruction and exploration, enhancing emergent gameplay possibilities. With its diverse levels and robust physics engine, Toy Commander provides a fun, replayable, and deeply impressive experience. The next page looks at some of the import games that have landed on our shores. First up is Puyo Puyo 4, a puzzle game, bit like Bubble Bobble on the PlayStation apparently, but with these sticky round things. It's all about setting up chain reactions and being strategic. They've given it a solid score of 6. Then there's Giant Gram, a wrestling title. Apparently it's a sequel to Sega's All Japan Professional Wrestling, and features characters from Virtua Fighter like Kagemaru, Jeffrey and Wolf. Controls are a bit fiddly, they say, but they've given it a 7 out of 10. Finally, there's Gundam Side Story 0079, a mech combat game. Sounds a bit drab visually with greyish colours and odd buildings. The instructions are apparently a bit of a head-scratcher too. They mention 2 types of weapons and powerful robots, but sadly, it seems they really didn't rate it much, only a score of 1 out of 10 for this one. This page is a Dreamcast Monthly magazine advert, pushing for subscriptions. It's got a cool image of a snowboarder holding a Dreamcast branded board, very 90s. And on the right there's a shot of the magazine cover itself, looks like they are covering Wafer Striker, that footy game, and Ready to Rumble Boxing, that cartoony boxing title. Also mentions something called Speed Demons, and they're giving away Millennium Soldier Dreamcasts as prizes, it seems. Right at the bottom there's a subscription form if you fancy signing up. This page is all about the exciting new world of online gaming on the Dreamcast, back in '99. The main article, splashed across 2 columns, is titled www.online.com. It's heralding the Dreamcast as ushering in a new era of multiplayer mayhem, moving on from just 4-player local games. They're talking about the shift from playing with mates on the sofa to connecting with people all over the world online, which was a proper game changer back then. They mention the old days of split screen and how online gaming is going to blow that away. It even touches upon the technical side, mentioning 33.6 kilobits per second modems and ISDN, which were all the rage for faster connections back then. Over on the right side, there's a sightseer section reviewing Dreamcast-related websites, listing out some good online resources for us Dreamcast owners. First up is Dreamcast Europe, pointing to a website at dreamcast.ign.com. They say it's a good source for European Dreamcast info. Then there's Dreamcast information page, highlighting www.segadreamcast.org, calling it the world's best DC sites for news and info. Finally, they mention a Dreamcast mailing list, which you could sign up to at front.dreamcast.com to get regular email updates. They reckon it's a good way to share info, especially if you're a bit shy about posting on forums. Nice little snapshot of the early Dreamcast online community right there. This article highlights the Dreamcast's push for online gaming. It contrasts the console with PC gaming, praising the Dreamcast's out-of-the-box simplicity. Have your Quake and play it focuses on Quake 3 Arena, emphasizing its online multiplayer capabilities and impressive graphics. The upcoming Unreal Tournament port is also mentioned. Surf's Up discusses the Dreamcast Passport 2 browser, emphasizing its improved features like Macromedia Flash and JavaScript for a seamless online experience. The article also questions the slow rollout of online features, speculating on potential delays. Screenshots of the Dreamcast Passport and Quake 3 Arena showcase the gaming experience. Finally, it teases the potential for online chatting and dating, highlighting the cutting-edge nature of these features at the time, concluding with a playful nod to the global online gaming community. The next page in Cheat Code Central is packed with cheat codes for a variety of Dreamcast games. Starting with Sega Rally 2, it gives codes for unlocking all cars and tracks. Then there's Sonic Adventure with hints for finding Knuckles emblems and a metallic Cow Baby. SoulCalibur cheats include changing Sufficia's color, weapon selection, victory poses, and water veins. Moving on to Tokyo Extreme Racer, it details how to unlock the Honda IS-2000 and Porsche 911 cars. Dynamite Cop cheats let you unlock a bonus gun, infinite credits, extra missions, and even playing as Bruno from the arcade version. Eater. In the bite-size section there are quick tips for several games. For Redline Racer, it's about accessing GP mode. Poppin' Music allows you to change character colors. Secret character in an unspecified game is unlocked on normal difficulty. Ambitious Delta provides EE lighting tips. Air Force Delta mentions EE lighting again. Giant Graham reveals alternate costumes for Virtua Fighter characters. And finally, Godzilla VMU Monster in Godzilla. Destroy All Monsters Melee is about keeping your VMU monster alive in Death vs. Battle mode. Characters. For Pen Trill Salon there are cheat codes to unlock secret characters, alternate costumes, and different introductions. There's a section dedicated to visual memory unit cheats, for changing screen fonts and animation pictures. Finally, Puyo Puyo 4 has players Carbuncle and Doppio Aruru cheats. This is an advertisement from Gameplay, a mail-order catalogue promoting the Sega Dreamcast. They are selling the console for £189.99 with free delivery, highlighting its 128-bit power and built-in modem. Accessories like keyboards, memory units, controllers, and VGA boxes are also featured. The ad showcases screenshots and game titles, such as Dead or Alive 2, Sonic Adventure, and SoulCalibur. They push Sega Bass Fishing, with its fishing rod controller. A UK Dreamcast games section lists numerous titles for £39.99 each, including Sega Rally 2 and House of the Dead 2. A pre-Christmas release section lists titles like Marvel vs. Capcom and Ready to Rumble. There's also a small section for the Neo Geo Pocket Color handheld. Sega Park in Bournemouth is revisited, with the Ferrari's 355 challenge as its star attraction. The article highlights the game's immersive experience, emphasizing its realistic polygon graphics and three-screen display. It's described as more than just a Ferrari game, promising a deeper arcade experience. The simulator offers 3 difficulty settings affecting driver assists, and features 4 progressively challenging courses. The reviewer praises the game, stating it is worth the £5 entry fee. What a result! Section details the game's appeal, like its manual gearbox and the importance of mastering driving techniques, including cornering. A 16-year-old Adam praises the game as the best driving experience in the arcade. He is drawn to the Ferrari, the 3-screen setup, and enjoys the driver assists, concluding by saying the experience is really cool. This article reviews 2 arcade games showcased at Sega Park. Zombie Revenge, a light gun game similar to House of the Dead, features zombie soldiers and offers diverse weaponry and replayability. Players choose an agent and can use buttons or a light gun. Crazy Taxi, developed on Sega's Naomi hardware, promises a Dreamcast release. This addictive game focuses on fast-paced taxi driving, with drifting and jumping mechanics. Interviews with arcade players provide insights. Pierre, 21, enjoyed Zombie Revenge, known as Zombie Zone in Japan, appreciating arcades in both France and the UK. Scott, 22, praised Crazy Taxi's realistic, high-speed driving, highlighting shortcuts and freedom of movement. He also anticipated the success of Sega's arcade games on consoles. Declan, an 18-year-old, discusses his experience with House of the Dead 2, highlighting the glutton enemies and his experience with the magician boss on the Dreamcast, which was one of his first games. A preview announces the Dreamcast release of House of the Dead 2 on October 14th, emphasizing its arcade-perfect quality, light gun support, and adjustable difficulty. The Dreamcast version offers more continues. Advertisements include Project K, selling import games and accessories, and Video Game Center, promoting new Japanese games, including House of the Dead 2, and Saturn/Mega Drive games. A Sega Park competition offers chances to win arcade credits. Finally, an ad for a PlayStation cheatbook and advertising space in the magazine are also present. This page showcases upcoming games and carries a strong anti-piracy message. On the left, it's hyping up the next issue with a knockout issue tagline, and featuring Ready to Rumble. Seems like we'll get a good look at Midway's boxing title next month, including developer interviews and a review. There's also a preview for Metropolis Street Racer from Bizarre Creations. They are billing themselves as Sega's top developers and are confidently calling this game their Gran Turismo beta for the Dreamcast. Quite a bold claim. Finally, there's a mention of Jimmy White 2 Cue Ball. Promising an in-depth and accurate snooker simulator, they are even boasting about putting you in the Whirlwind's shoes in an exclusive interview. Over on the right side, it's a stark reminder about software piracy. "Don't play games with criminals, it will end in tears," is the headline, alongside an image of police making an arrest. It lists recent convictions for software piracy, detailing names, locations, and the penalties handed out. Community service, fines, and even prison sentences are mentioned. It's a serious message from police and trading standards about cracking down on game piracy, with a clear warning: don't risk it. There's a phone number and website to report software piracy, really hammering home the legal consequences.